preservation of Dharma. We who are engaged in spiritual, religious, and dharmic activities are facing a serious crisis because of the present government's move to keep all temples, spiritual, religious, and charitable institutions under its control. This move is basically against the very glorious tradition of this great country of ours, handed down to us by our illustrious and illumined ancestors. Weaving from the mundane level, also, this goes against the norms of natural justice. Hence, this act of the government has to be resisted by building up a strong public opinion against it so that the government is pressurized to retrace its steps from its deplorable stand. Just because a stray incident has happened in a month, it does not warrant such a blanket control from the side of the government in total disregard to the human services silently rendered by innumerable well-run religious and charitable institutions. At the same time, we should know why such a prompting was given in the minds of the present rulers by the Almighty Lord of the universe, by whose power alone everything happens in this world. It could only be to remind the persons manning the religious and charitable institutions to behave befitting their stature and to set their life as models for others to emulate. The people in the helm of affairs of the said institutions are considered to be personifications of moral, ethical, and spiritual values. When they react on the same level as ordinary people, not only do they lose love, respect, and support from the society, but also lower down the status, sanctity, and decorum they have been commanding. We have to face the situation invoking the Lord's blessings on us for strength and courage. We have to do all that is necessary to see that this idea of the government does not take shape. But one thing we should not forget, while using all our forces to gain our cause, we must be absolutely non-violent in every respect, that is, in thought, word, and deed. We should not feel ill will towards anybody, nor hurt anybody by words or deeds. Even if we are hurt, we should not bear any ill will towards that person or those persons, and thus maintain our equanimity in all conditions, however trying they may be. Then only we can expect God's protection. As a first step in this direction, an appeal has to be drafted and sent to all the elected members of Kerala Legislative Assembly in general and to the members representing the opposition parties in particular. The write-up should be worded in such a way that it should highlight the need and relevance of such institutions and their unique style of functioning. The said appeal must also be posted to the editors of all dailies, weeklies, monthlies, with a request to come out with editorial articles on the subject matter. The President of India and the Governor of Kerala should be requested not to give their assent to any such bill. Air, Doordarshan, Asianet, and the like must also be approached to bring out suitable programs so as to lead this matter to a public debate. Secondly, leading and outstanding personalities may be requested to issue press release almost every day in all major dailies and regularly in weeklies, monthlies, expressing their disagreement to the subject move of the government. Besides doing all the above, everyone interested in stopping the government from taking over the Dharma- Dharmasthana- Dharmasthapanas should pray to the all-merciful Lord who is the controller of the entire universe and chant his name, any name, Ramnam, Krishnanam, Shivanam, or any other name of God at least 5,000 daily. This is the tapas all have to do for facing this crisis successfully. May God, who is the upholder of Dharma and who is ever with you all, bless your efforts with all success and save the temples, spiritual, religious, and dharmic institutions from humiliation and trouble so that they may continue to serve the public by helping them to lead a better life, to aspire for a higher life, strive for and ultimately reach the supreme goal of human life. Mundane to spiritual. Such a song is. Yeah.
What is happening?
Which year it may be?
Something like 98 or 99.
Oh, okay, there was trouble there.
It is written there. It will be written there. In the beginning.
No,
It's not there.
no. Only in that points to honor it is there.
I went to one of mine was involved as well, I think.
Avatar.
Yeah, I think they appealed to her as well.
Ah,
And they succeeded, I think, didn't they?
yeah. The haves should help the have-nots. The present days are such that many rich persons have become homeless and many children have become destitute. It is the responsibility of the more fortunate ones to find ways and means to look after those old and young ones, taking care of their physical needs and providing the necessary nourishment for the souls, and thus making them feel that life is holy, it has a purpose, and therefore it is worth living. The old, unwanted, and destitute men and women must have a shelter, security, and peace, and plenty of opportunity to turn their mind once for all from the transitory drama of life to the reality and work hard to return to the source, putting an end to the painful and torturous cycle of birth and death. The young ones who have yet to see life should grow up in this most congenial and sattvic atmosphere into useful citizens, making their life useful and happy by serving and giving happiness to others. The well-placed ones should therefore serve the less fortunate ones in all possible ways through body, mind, and money, than, man, dhan, and thus earn the grace of God, who himself is seated in the hearts of all those young and old ones who need such service. By serving them, looking after them, as different forms of God Himself. They are doing the real worship. This is an all comprehensive sadhana. So, those who are contributing towards the service of the old and young ones should remember that God Himself, coming in the form of these poor and destitute, is giving them a chance to serve Him and thus get the maximum benefit of the service, which will help them progress fast in their sadhana and ultimately realize that everything is Vasudeva. Divine life. Gurudev Sri Swami Shivanandaji Maharaj called this the Divine Life Society. I am sure by that he meant that the society should help all to realize the divinity and see the divinity in everybody. So, all those who are members of DLS and those who call themselves devotees of other saints should feel that the only purpose of life is to realize the divinity, see divinity in others, and thus enjoy supreme happiness. How do we see divinity in others? We cannot see God because God is invisible, but His manifestation is visible. We see Him in His manifestations. The entire universe is His manifestation. As He is all pervading, He is seated in every atom of His manifestation. We must be conscious of His eternal presence in everything that we see, every form, every human being, every man, every woman, every animal, every creature. If we maintain this attitude, we will be progressing very fast on the spiritual path and realize our divinity. It is not very difficult to lead a spiritual life living in the world. Now, hear the story our Gurudev was fond of telling. Not long ago, there was a Maharaja in India who was a very pious man. He was so devoted to God that he could feel God's presence in everybody, especially the sadhus and sannyasis who were wandering in those days, living only on alms. This Raja was fond of serving such sadhus. These sadhus had therefore free entry into his palace. So, from morning till evening, many sadhus and sannyasis went to his palace, received right royal pujas from the Raja. As soon as a sadhu entered the palace, he was very cordially welcomed, was made to sit on a pedestal. The Maharaja himself would bring a large plate, ask the sadhu to place his feet on the plate, wash his feet, chanting the Lord's name with all love. The Raja used to forget himself in such worship. He would offer sandal paste, flowers, and naivedyam to the sadhu and also give him a lot of valuable presents. This was a daily affair. After the puja was over, he would drink the Padatirtha with all devotion. Many sadhus were received and worshipped daily. His ministers and others in the palace knew that some of the sadhus were not genuine and were only pretending to be sadhus. But they could not do anything or say anything about the sadhus to the Raja because he would not listen to what others said about them. One day, a sadhu was received right royally and was being worshipped, and the Maharaja was fully absorbed in such worship. One of the members of the palace who knew that sadhu called the chief minister and told him that the sadhu was a bogus one. But looking at the Maharaja fully absorbed in the worship, nobody dared to go near him and tell him the fact. So they waited for some time. After the puja was over, the sadhu got a number of presents by way of clothes, food items, and also cash and left the palace. The chief minister did not then tell anything to the Raja, but waited for an opportune time. The same evening in the town, that sadhu, a professional magician, was having a performance. The ministers came to know about it and informed the chief minister. The chief minister thought that was the right opportunity to expose the magician who came as a sadhu. He suggested to the Raja that they might go for a drive to some places in the evening. The Raja agreed and they went out. After going out to different places, they came to the ground where the performance of the magician was going on. When very near the stage, the minister asked the Raja, "Do you recognize that magician?" Maharaja looked at the magician, immediately got down from the carriage and straight went to the platform and did a Dandavat Namaskar to the magician. You can imagine a Maharaja doing a Dandavat Namaskar in public to a bogus sadhu, a magician who came as a sadhu and received worship from him. When he got up, he said, "O Lord, what wonderful Leela you play. Only this morning you came to me in the form of a sadhu. Now you are playing the part of a magician. What all parts you can take, I cannot understand. Your ways are mysterious." That was the real feeling he had. He never took him to be a sadhu or a magician. He took him to be God Himself playing different parts. This is, however, possible only for a devotee who practices seeing God in everybody. When this story was being told, one Maharaja was sitting in front of our Gurudev. When he heard that the other Maharaja in the story did Dandavat Namaskar to the sadhu, he just jumped from his seat. He was so excited as himself was very devoted. That much devotion we must have so as to see the divine in everybody. That is what our masters have been teaching us and want us to put into practice. Let us pray to God to give us the vision of seeing Him alone in everybody and the awareness of His presence everywhere. Seeing His hand alone working in this universe at all times and in all places. May He bless us all with His supreme vision and grant us eternal happiness. Value of Satsang. All of you attend Satsang only because you feel benefited in your sadhana by such programs. Benefited in the sense that they help you to be in tune with God at least as long as you are attending such programs, and in some cases for a much longer time. So, what is needed for sadhana is more of such occasions that can help us to commune with God more and more and ultimately commune with Him constantly. Before one has God vision, one has to remain in constant communion with God. Though such satsang programs help us, we cannot have them always. We can have them only once in a way. We feel unhappy when we do not get more of such occasions, as our happiness depends upon the external programs. We have therefore to devise ways and means to remember God without any external aids. Even when we are attending such programs, unless we train our minds to commune with God, it will not help us very much. So, the first thing we have to do is to train the mind to commune with God at first under favorable conditions like bhajans, etc., and gradually in all conditions. There may be so many unfavorable conditions that we may have to face in our daily lives. As soon as we leave this place, we have to face the heavy traffic, lot of noise outside. Not only do they not help us to easily commune with God, but they also prove a not only do they not help us to easily commune with God, but they also prove a disturbing factor. Saints, Mahatmas, our spiritual guides have told us again and again that there is none but God in this world. The whole world is God Himself. God alone is. This is the Mahavakya. When God alone is, why are we then not able to see Him, feel Him? There is something standing between us and God. Though God is all pervading and is never away from us, we feel that we are separate from God. We don't feel His presence. It is to feel His presence that the Mahatmas have given us the holy and all powerful mantra, the constant repetition of which can gradually purify our mind of all the dirt that causes the disturbance. Only in a pure and still mind God reveals Himself. So, the sadhaka's effort is to purify the mind and make it still. That stillness and purification comes by God remembrance. Satsang helps to commune with God and gives us an impetus in our sadhana. There may be occasions when satsang is not available. Then we have to repose complete faith in the Mahavakya and train our mind to see God in everything, to see everything as manifestation of God. This practice must go on constantly. May the Almighty God bless you all with success in your sadhana and lead you to the supreme goal of realization of your oneness with Him, resulting in eternal happiness. Prepare yourselves to prepare others. You are all blessed people because in your young age itself you have been blessed with the aspiration to take to a higher life, giving up the pleasures of the transitory life, and you have a scholarly and experienced acharya to guide you. You are all preparing for a higher life. At the same time, you are preparing yourselves to prepare others also for the higher life. That is the greatest service you can do to humanity, gifting of Brahma Vidya to many, many aspiring souls. May the All Merciful Lord bless your efforts with all success and at the same time lead you to the supreme goal. On adoption of sannyas. Beloved Papa did not believe in the traditional initiation into the order of sannyas. His very life shows that renunciation or sannyas is not something that can be given or adopted by merely changing external conditions. He believed that it is a natural process in man, and when one feels that he has great and intense dispassion to the things of the world, and equally or more intense aspiration to realize God, he can take to the order of sannyas. Though certain rituals are done externally, it is mainly an inner or mental development and transformation after attaining certain amount of purification. When the mind is perfectly purified, the real transformation takes place and one then will be able to identify oneself with the Atman, giving up wrong identification with the body. The moment one identifies oneself with the Atman, attachment to the body, its relatives and friends, possessions, etc., drop off without any effort. That is real sannyas. It is not really necessary to give up the household and wander into the wide world in search of God because God is within us and everywhere about us. One can as well remain in white clothes and get the highest realization. What is said here is not meant to criticize the traditional way of initiation into the order of sannyas. The tradition of sannyas started centuries ago. Many heads of spiritual and religious institutions initiate their chosen disciples into the order of sannyas even when they find them fit for a life of renunciation and austerity so that the young initiates may perform their sadhana and also learn the scriptures in the holy and austere atmosphere and a strict discipline and thus prepare themselves for the inner transformation which alone will qualify them to shoulder the responsibilities of guiding others on the spiritual path. In beloved Papa's case, he took to the order of sannyas, but he did not encourage sannyas for others except for one, that is myself. Though I did not ask, he asked me to take to the order of sannyas and gave me the cloth and the name. In a few other cases, he agreed that they might adopt sannyas because they requested him persistently. Otherwise, he was only telling everybody to lead the ordinary householder's life with the aspiration to realize God while doing sadhana at the same time. Life of beloved Papa, a source of inspiration. Because of God's grace and because God chose to reveal Himself in beloved Papa, He became a blessing to the entire world and especially to the seekers of truth. We all would not have been here for, but for His having taken to the order of sannyas and realized His oneness with the Supreme Being, thus being in a position to guide humanity to the supreme goal of life. Beloved Papa had climbed the highest peak of devotion with the result that his mind was filled with Ram through and through. He wanted Ram only. He talked about Ram only. He was living for Ram only. Nothing else mattered to him. It was in that mental condition that Ram prompted him to leave Mangalore to throw himself entirely in the arms of Ram, his beloved. And on this date, 27th December 1922, on the banks of Kaveri, he put on himself, as directed by Ram, the ochre robes, leaving the current to carry away the white clothes, the last material that he was till then wearing, that broke his connection with the worldly life. During those momentous few minutes, he prayed to Ram, O Ram, O love infinite, protector of all the worlds, it is by thy wish alone that thy humble slave has been induced to adopt sannyas. In thy name alone, O Ram, he has given up samsara and cut asunder all bonds, all ties. O Ram, bless thy poor devotee with thy grace. May Ramdas be endued with strength, courage, and faith to carry out in thy name, Ram, the following vows and bear all trials and all kinds of privations that may beset the path of a sannyasi in his passage through the rough and perilous life of a mendicant. This life be henceforth entirely consecrated to meditation and the service of Sri Ram. Strict celibacy be observed, looking upon all women as mothers. The body be maintained and fed upon the food procured by bhiksha or on what is offered as alms. From the worldly point of view, it was an act of great renunciation. But from beloved Papa's side, it was induced by Ram and therefore a natural falling off of everything that was holding him back to the world. What was left with him was his intense devotion to Ram. The same devotion had started purifying his mind and at this stage possessed him so thoroughly that nothing of the lower nature could influence him. In a short time, his mind was made so pure that it could not remain a mind any longer. It became quite still, calm. The individual sense that was sustained and nurtured by the mind till then could also not exist. What was left was pure consciousness alone. The darkness of ignorance, which was preventing him from realizing his true being, had vanished, and along with it, all that made one's life unhappy. He could not say I anymore. The dewdrop had become one with the sea. He had become a vehicle for God to work through. The love and bliss of God radiated through him. We bring before us the qualities beloved Papa had. He was absolute truth incarnate. He was absolute love, and his life was very, very simple. All of you know very well that he has quite a number of books to his credit, giving out his experiences, especially glorifying the power of Ramnam and selfless service. The same he was talking to everybody in general and sadhakas in particular. In fact, he considered everybody a sadhaka and talked mostly on that line only. Usually, Papa was not talking about the negative side of life. He was always telling the sadhakas to see the brighter side. He was trying to encourage developing the positive side of life. What was required for a sadhaka, first of all, as Papa always used to emphasize, was constant remembrance of God. Whatever way you may employ, you must be able to maintain ceaseless remembrance of God. It means remembrance of God all the 24 hours. Whether you are working, whether you are eating, whether you are sleeping, whether you are doing anything else, you must be able to maintain that remembrance running through you. If this is done, he used to say, everything else would follow. So, the foundation for spiritual life is constant remembrance of God. Of course, constant remembrance can come only if one is serious in sadhana, if one's aspiration to realize God is very intense. And this again can come only if God chooses him to take him unto himself. He can do it. Otherwise, he cannot. Only if God wills, we can progress on the spiritual path. This does not mean that we should be idle. We should not say that, oh, God must shower his grace on us. Then only we can realize. Otherwise, we cannot realize. The very fact that all of us are in touch with beloved Papa and Mataji from a long time, and the very fact that we have been aspiring for a higher life, show that God has chosen to reveal himself in us, and he will do it sooner or later. In the meantime, we are made to do sadhana, some very seriously, some in a half-hearted way, all because our sadhana is conditioned by our previous vasanas and samskaras. The result of many of the actions we had done in the past life do not permit us to take to intense sadhana. Unless we have worked out all those, we will not be able to do intense sadhana. So, by sadhana alone, we have to wash them off. Beloved Papa has given us the mantra. Let us chant the mantra constantly, remember God ceaselessly, and leave ourselves entirely in His hands. He will mold us and give us the right shape. Only thing we have to do is to leave ourselves in His hands. While chanting His name constantly, be aware of His presence within and without. You can think of Him as a personal God or as an impersonal God. Once you feel His presence always with you, make Him your constant companion. He is closer to you than anybody else. Thus, have His close companionship and carry on with your sadhana. Live blissfully and be sure He will take you to the supreme goal, oneness with Him. High standard of renunciation necessary. Though beloved Papa was talking in the public that one can as well remain in the white clothes and get the highest realization, he really believed that a high standard of renunciation is necessary before one can reach the supreme goal. Once it so happened that in a large gathering, in fact, many times in gatherings, he was telling that it was not necessary for anybody to externally renounce anything. What was required was internal renunciation, and one could reach God by remaining at home. After hearing him for some time, I asked him why he was telling that it was possible for everybody to reach God while remaining at home without changing their occupation, their position or status, and did not emphasize the need for external renunciation. He told me, Ramdas will show you tomorrow. He will talk about the highest renunciation. See what happens. The next day in the gathering, he started talking about the need for external renunciation. Not only the need, but he considered external renunciation as an absolute necessity for realizing God. He said that spiritual life is not a joke. You have to give up everything, physically and mentally. You cannot have him for nothing. In that strain, when he went on talking, some of the devotees who were very eagerly listening to him gradually stepped back. That is, they showed that they were not interested in listening to him. After some time, a few of them got up and left the place. Seeing this, Papa winked at me, meaning that people are not pleased to hear about the highest renunciation. Afterwards, when the meeting was over, he told me, see what happened when Ramdas talked about external renunciation. People are not prepared for that. That is why Ramdas tells them that until they are prepared to take the leap, they can stay at home and practice sadhana, but a day will come when they will be taken out of their household and made to remain in solitude for some time at least. Not that they should be wandering all their lives in search of God, but at least for some time they need a solitary life for intense sadhana. When they are ready, either they themselves will leave everything, or finding that they are useless in the house, the relations will push them out. All big chapters. Differences in family life. You have written about the indifferent attitude of your husband, especially when you are with your parents and not in good health. There must be something there must be something which has hurt him. You have to find out how it could have happened. Either your words or actions must have hurt him. The best thing for you to do in the circumstances is to have a free and frank talk with him and find out why he is so indifferent. But while talking to him, be sure that you do not lose your temper. You must maintain your equanimity and talk to him lovingly. At this stage, your frank talk will do a lot of good for removing the dark cloud that has come in between you both and thus clearing your ways so that both of you may lead a harmonious life. You say you are disgusted with family life. You have expressed this in a mood of depression. You should get over this mood and will surely get over it. If you talk to your husband as suggested above, there is nothing but God. It is always a joy to hear from your closest ones and especially about the closest one, our beloved Papa. Whatever way you approach him and whatever sadhana you practice, it is only to maintain his constant remembrance and ultimately to identify everything, everything we see, think of, and touch with God. There is nothing but God. Our mind was trained in the wrong way to see everything as not God. Now, with Guru's touch, the dehypnotizing process will bring the mind to its normal state, which is to see God in everything. Studies are for gaining knowledge. It is not enough to make resolutions, but you must also make an honest effort to systematically follow your lessons right from the beginning of the year. This practice will save you the tension, anxiety, and risk which would otherwise be your lot if you put off the studies till the last moment. You must also remember that passing the examination is not the mere object of studies. Studies are for gaining knowledge, which would help you to build a career and also serve the society in the years to come. for abiding peace and happiness. The power of the name of God is not to be measured by the petty favors He grants us. We do not know what is good for us. We are under the illusion that our material possessions will give us happiness. What we really get is momentary pleasure. If we want abiding peace and happiness, the Lord alone can grant us that. For that, we have to unconditionally surrender to His will, take total refuge in Him, and keep chanting His holy and all powerful name constantly. For our bodily ailments, we go to a doctor and take the medicine prescribed by him. Similarly, for all our mental afflictions, we have to take that one panacea Ramnam as prescribed by the doctor, our Guru. So do not lose faith. Be firm in your conviction that the Lord is always with you. Keep chanting the holy name as much as possible. God grants only whatever is good. It is true, beloved Papa assured that chanting of Ramnam can give us everything. When it can take us to the supreme goal of God realization, what, it, what can it not give? This does not mean that God will grant us whatever we pray for. We may be praying for many things of the world, which, if granted, may cause more harm to us than good. So, God grants only whatever is good for us. With the purification of the mind, by properly chanting Ramnam, we will get the right knowledge of what we are, what our source is, what our relation with others is, what the world is, what the purpose of our life is, and what is God. The purer the mind, the clearer will be our vision. We will not be then praying for anything, as we will be seeing only the play of God in everything. God is guiding you. Do not feel disturbed by the temporary setbacks in your life. Try to understand them properly so as to evaluate them rightly. God is guiding you. Place yourself in His hands, safe hands, and remain happy and peaceful like a carefree child. Be sure that if He closes one door, He opens another door. So do not lose heart. चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ नमः शिवाय नमः ॐ नमः शिवाय नमः ॐ नमः शिवाय नमः ॐ नमः शिवाय नमः हर हर शिवाय नमः हर शिव शिवाय नमः ॐ शिव शिव शिवाय नमः ॐ शिव शिव शिवाय नमः ॐ शिव शिव शिवाय नमः ॐ परमेश्वराय नमः ॐ परमेश्वराय नमः ॐ परमेश्वराय नमः ॐ परमेश्वराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखराय नमः ॐ चंद्रशेखर गंगाधराय नमः ॐ गंगाधराय नमः ॐ नमः शिवाय नमः ॐ नमः शिवाय नमः हर हर शिवाय नमः हर हर शिवाय नमः शिव शिव शिवाय नमः शिवाय नमः शिव शिव शिवाय नमः शिव शिवाय परमेश्वराय नमः परमेश्वराय नमः चंद्रशेखराय नमः गंगाधराय नमः ओम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम 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 ओम श्री राम जय राम
Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Om Shri Ram, Jai